Okay, we'll start this Wednesday, June 21st meeting to order. Thank you. We don't have to do another pledge of allegiance, but could we do a roll call?
Sure. Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Trustee Dice?
Yes.
Commissioner Young?
Here.
And I'm here as
Great. And then online in public comment, we have 0 responses. We don't have anybody online. Do we have any in-person public comments? Okay, then moving on to the next item, which is discussion and possible action in 2021 Ogden Unity tenant estoppel letter for lease or sale of the building. After being sent the email yesterday from attorney Wysocki asking for us to ask for again to clearly make sure that we get a letter of sale and intent. I did ask for that. Attorney Wysocki then spoke to Doug. Doug then asked Attorney Wysocki to speak to his attorney, and that's where the attorneys are talking to each other. And that's where I left off, is that we were asking for all of the information, and that's exactly where we're left off. I asked Assessor Trowbridge if he wanted anything else added into anything legally. He didn't reply back. This was again yesterday from the meeting. Is there anything, and it sounds like what Highway Commissioner Young is suggesting is that you all ask Assessor Trowbridge to get some more data in the information. The landlord Doug is very much pressuring us to come to a resolution as soon as possible on this matter because he's worried about it. So I'm just saying that the next options are, of course, thinking about the details of whether the board wants to even pursue this. So getting more information is going to help detail that. I was frankly under the assumption, after we've been dealing with this with going through our town halls, that the board was not interested in doing that, or else we would have put it on the agendas for the town.
No, that
halls.
wasn't the case. We didn't have any information.
Okay, and again, we weren't given a number, and they said that.
Say that we weren't
But the
interested,
lease
it's not the
requires
truth.
them
Yeah.
to give you the number.
Okay,
So you
agreed.
should have- Last time Attorney Wysocki said you should get a real estate. I think you should. I think the one
Yeah.
to do this, and it wouldn't take much, to draft the letter, make sure that the landlord is in compliance with the lease. With the required information, so that you can properly evaluate whether you. Or not. You can't evaluate whether you're gonna buy the building or not if you don't have a number. Under the lease's terms, he's got to provide that information, as well as other information pertaining to leases in the existing building. That way you could do a proper evaluation. Assessor Trowbridge has wealth of experience in this area. The attorney that drafted the lease to begin with worked very well with Assessor Trowbridge, and he could draft the letter to the landlord requiring the information that we're entitled to under the lease. Once you get that, a 60-day clock starts. That you have to let them. You could certainly do an evaluation to let the trustees know within a week whether it's even worth pursuing any further. If it is worth pursuing further, and then perhaps even some grants might be available. Don't know about that, but if that's, you can get that going as well. But then you could get an emergency trustee or special trustee meeting, so somebody with a financial background would lay out the options of whether it's worthwhile pursuing the purchase of the building. Then you still have enough time to call an emergency, or not an emergency, but a special town meeting to get approval from the electors to authorize. I think you have an obligation to that.
Right. Well, I'd like to make a motion to make tax assessor John Trowbridge the lead person on the discussion of the tenant estoppel.
I'll second.
Thank you. Will he do the financial analysis or who will do the net cash flow?
I think we would.
I think he can draft anybody he needs to. I think he can. But if he needs people, I mean, he's got a network of every real estate financial analyst in the country.
Just a small one.
Yeah, but he can.
And
The only thing
he
he may need is a couple hours of legal time with the person who drew the things. To make sure that that letter is sent.
Right, and you're
We
right.
should ask Attorney Wysocki to stop it.
So we have a motion on the table, right?
In a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So any discussion on that motion?
Sorry, that's what-
We're at the discussion.
Yeah, it was a good discussion, thanks. And you're right. I mean, as Attorney Wasaki said, I would refer this to a real estate lawyer.
So I don't know why she started working.
So, I just wanted that data point for folks that may not have remembered that from the last meeting. as
No,
well.
I remember it. And I remember her saying she didn't feel qualified to do it.
Right,
And that's what concerns me, is that you have an obligation, I think, because the lease was written in such a way that should this have occurred, you have an opportunity to buy. I mean, that building's been on the market for several. So I assume the price reflects a reduction in price over that. It may be just.
no more
Yeah.
discussion from me.
Okay, then all in favor of having, and I guess from a timeline perspective, are we expecting then an update at the next July meeting or at the next meetings? To update the landlord, or should we just have, should I just tell the landlord that he needs to talk to Assessor Trowbridge, who's going to be handling this from the board's perspective?
Well, I don't think we have to wait till the next meeting, because I think you should capture this information. We could even receive it in an email, right?
Right.
But yes, to your point, yes.
And time is of the essence.
Yeah, time is, yes.
John will contact the attorney that he worked with to get the lease, to get that letter out. And then once he responds, that starts in 60 days. And I'm sure John can raise passes.
So are we going to, we probably have an engagement letter for that attorney from the past, but do we need a motion
Ansel Blake is my attorney. Take it on my budget.
Well, he's got budgets for,
Okay.
as well.
I just don't
Well,
want
I think this is really
It
under
would
the
come out of ours.
supervisor.
No, it would come out of our budget. for
Yeah.
sure.
It wouldn't be his budget.
Okay.
So, but then we would need to engage with an attorney. So if Ansel Blink is already been engaged with, for the highway commission, then can we pay for that bill?
I would think so.
through-
We have a
They
master
have a real
agreement.
estate attorney?
Pardon me?
Two questions, sorry.
Do they have a real estate attorney?
He's the one that drafted the
Okay,
lease.
perfect.
Through Ansel Blink?
Yes.
Is that, oh, I apologize. I didn't know.
Yeah, the
it was
lawyer
that.
who drafted the lease is a lawyer at Ansel.
Okay,
And we have engagement or standard master
Well, that-
agreement with them.
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan.
Okay, great, then, can we have a roll call vote?
Sure, trustee Geist?
Yes.
Trustee McGovern?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes,
Trustee Page?
Yes.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yes, and we don't need an executive
I
session.
do have another question within there. And one of the things that I read, I saw that you engaged a realtor for that property, and wondering if you had a buyer's agreement with that.
No,
Okay, because again, if you're engaging people and retaining people, it needs to go through the trustees. Also, the question then becomes is, what's procuring cause? So there might be, you may have engaged a fee, an unintentional consequence of what happened by procuring cause, if she showed you the property.
so, again, this was, year and a half ago, that we started to think about expanding the property, looking for other options. And so again, there was no documents that were signed. Nothing was, there was no engagement letters started. But we can figure out what,
Why would we work, why would a realtor have to show us property that we renting? We're already in the space, right?
So prior to April 2022, the April town hall, we're looking for figuring out what our options were. So again, we needed to, we didn't hire anybody. We started working with a real estate person that was newer to the area that could help us make sure that we were looking at places that were on the market.
Oh, okay.
So
The problem, though, I think with that is that there's not a on the line fee if you did not sign a buyer's agreement, but there is going to possibly be a procuring cause. And then there is, if I see it as a huge conflict of interest is because you hired someone as a partner for the real estate firm to be able to coordinate this, who actually is the husband of the realtor. So you would have the realtor selling it and her husband representing us.
Oh, my goodness.
they're not at the same firm. And
No, I
I'm
know
sorry,
they're not at the same firm, but they are, so again, that's a conflict. I'm just saying there's a possible unintended consequence
If someone
to an
knows your
action that
property,
you guys
I know-
didn't get to approve.
the person no longer works at that firm. So the firms are separated, meaning that Thompson and Colburn is not where her husband works.
But it was at the time that she took it, so.
But this sounds copacetic. All right,
Sense of impropriety,
Yeah.
that's all.
adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn today's time.
I will second. We did have
And then,
executive
all in
session.
favor,
Do we need it? And you made a motion
Aye.
to adjourn? On second?
No,
Oh, sorry.
So you can say, aye.
no, you're
Yes.
it, you're it.
okay, then we're adjourned. We're
All right.